Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another weekly reading wrap up. Welcome to week 34 of 2021. Isn't that crazy? Oh my gosh. I am so excited to talk about these books. This was a very interesting week. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, because I guess I announced it on there, it was the last day of my previous job, current, whatever, on Friday, and that whole week, this whole last week, I was just in like a weird funk, and I really am looking forward to this vacation I'm in the middle of. I'm gonna have 10 days off before I start my new job, which is the first time ever since finishing a job I have time off. I kind of planned it that way. They wanted me to start on like Thursday of this coming week, but I was like, can we just make it the next week, because I haven't had like time off, not at all during COVID, and then even before that I didn't really have any. Anyway, this is kind of a life update too. So basically, that being said, I'm gonna have a whole week off. I have some fun stuff planned for myself. I don't know what it'll mean for the channel. I will try to film some of it, but if you follow me on Instagram, I said I have kind of a fun secret that's going to happen during this coming week, and I can't wait for you guys to find out. But I'm not going to say anything until it's happening, but I promise that I will film it and share it with you for the most part. It's going to be amazing. But I don't know how much reading I'll actually do during that time off, because I'm going to be doing that. I actually usually read more when I have scheduled things, because I find time to fit it in. I'll still be reading. But this week I read 12 books. So another kind of like lower week for me. But I did reread some favorite books of mine. And that was just what the doctor ordered for my mental health. So let us go ahead and dive into these. So the first book, it was actually a book I read last week, and I totally forgot to write it down. I keep track of my books in a couple different places, but if I like miss it, then it just goes right over my head, So I actually read, the week before, I read Captive in the Dark by C.J. Roberts, okay? This is a book that has been recommended to me since I first started reading dark romance. It is one of the like cornerstones of captive books. I believe it's up there with like Twist Me or Tears of Tess, and kind of that level of like, it's been around forever. I read this in one night. I've had the audiobook purchased for ages, but I just hadn't been in the mood, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I totally get why this would have imprinted on people, why people would want to know how I feel about it, since Captive is a dark romance scenario that I really enjoy. But this one just didn't vibe with me. And granted, I know this is a trilogy or like a duet with like whatever, but I just don't have any desire to continue. This is the kind of captive that I don't like, because it's literally a master-slave dynamic. And unfortunately, lately I've read so many master-slave scenarios, and I don't enjoy them. It is not my kind of kink. It's not my kind of BDSM. Even when it's a consensual relationship, I don't like it, because I don't like the level of like punishments you get when it's a master-slave. And even when it's a consented scenario, which this one is not, right? She actually is kidnapped to be made into a slave to be sold, and I just didn't like the way that this one was done, but I understand why it's important and why it is kind of the like cornerstone for so many. The light always wants to give me ones. Whatever, we'll just open it big and we'll deal with it. It's fine. So anyway, 3.5 stars. Then I read Give Me a Reason. This is actually in a reading vlog. I did a dark romance reading vlog that has this book in it. I read an arc of this book. It comes out on the 30th, I think. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is, I believe he's like the son of an MC. it was unclear to me if he was fully ingrained in the MC or if it was just something he had lived before. But he's a single dad. His kid's about 6 years old. And the teacher of his son, who teaches at a private school, the private school is actually in some trouble because even though it's expensive for students to go there, most of that tuition gets poured back into the education and back into, other fundraising events and things like that. And so she goes to get a second job at this guy's club, not knowing that he is the father of one of her students. And then they have this connection. And then when he comes to pick up his son one day, they meet, they get off on the wrong foot because he's late because of reasons. So all that adds up. And it was a really compelling beginning. The problem I had is that this writing style was so purple that I could not see the story for the trees. I couldn't see the story for the flowers. And from some of my friends and followers who have read other A.L. Jackson books, they said that is a writing style that is a thing for her. So this cover is freaking gorgeous. It's funny that this was in my reading vlog about reading books based on the cover models, because I don't know these cover models, but this cover is gorgeous. It's part of the reason I asked for the arc. And it just didn't jive with me. It might jive with someone else, because if you like it really flowery, it was a pretty story, but I just didn't vibe with it. So it was 3.5 stars for me. I read Fierce Obsessions, which I believe was book 6 in the Phoenix pack. Honestly, I can't remember which couple this one was, but I said I gave it 5 stars. Dang it, which couple was that? That's the thing, is like they all are kind of blending together because I binged this series. But I know I really love this one. Was this the one? This one I think is the one with the Raven Shifter. Is this the one with the Raven Shifter? I think this is the one with the Raven Shifter, so I really liked it. Sorry that I don't have more specifics for that. I've loved this whole series, but it's one of those where, like, if I don't talk about it right after I read it, then I forget who the couple was. But I've loved this whole series, as we will see as I finish it out here. Then I read Lost Boy by M. Robinson. You can also find this in my reading vlog, which I'm sure I've linked up here at some point. I gave this book 2 stars. This was the book that Sam picked, because that video was a, we did like a reading vlog together, reading books based on the cover model, and she picked this one based on the cover model, and I hated this book. I gave it 2 stars. It had so many things I don't like in it. It takes place over a long period of time. She is a child star. He is the son of an MC in a very abusive situation. She ends up being a starlet and getting into drugs and having these issues, and they're together and apart and together and apart. I really felt like she used our hero a lot. But then she was also being used. This was definitely like a Me Too book situation, or like situation where like she was getting parts based on using her body, but that started when she was a child, so she was being molested by these different directors and producers, and she never tells our hero about it, and that's the reason she's staying away from him. I spoiled a lot of the book. I don't care. I gave it 2 stars. I don't recommend it. Watch that vlog to see me rant forever. I ranted for a long time. But then I reread Vanquish. I wish I'd grabbed that one down. I didn't grab it down. Pam Godwin, when I'm recording this, I'm talking to her this afternoon, so that video will actually be up when this video goes up for you. I was rereading some of my favorites of hers because my friend Crystal is reading the books, and I wanted to re-immerse myself in the Deliver world, which is a dark world, I'll tell you that. But Vanquish is book 2 in the series. This is about Vanquish, who in the first book, you'll have met him. He is one of the procurers of the slaves. He's one of the trainers of the slaves, and now he isn't anymore because Liv, who was his partner, she found a match in the first book, and he kind of wants her back. And he ends up getting distracted by this woman named Amber, who's an agoraphobic, trapped in her house. He thinks her house is empty, and it's the house right next to Liv's house, and so he starts scoping it out. And one night he sees her try to make it to the mailbox, and it's very difficult for her. Like, this is like, she has agoraphobia. It's a big deal. And he decides he wants her for a pet. So he takes her from her home, that she's an agoraphobic, to his home. And it's amazing. this book is so powerful. This book has all the triggers. If there's a trigger that you have, assume it happens in this one. There is eating disorder issues in this one, besides all the normal, like, I say normal, but besides like the sexual assault triggers or rape triggers that can happen in Pam's books, this one also has, if you have body image issues, or, you know, like bulimia or things like that, be sensitive with this one. I feel like I want to point that out for sure, because that's different than what's in some normal dark romance. But this was 5 stars reread. Easy peasy. I read The Depths of Destruction by Maggie Cole. This is the first book in her Behind Closed Doors series, which I definitely want to be reading more of, now that I am pretty much completely caught up to her newest series. Like, I'm way ahead of everybody else. I'm only waiting on book 10 of the Mafia Wars still. I'm trying to read some of her other series. And this one, I will say this one, nothing was happening when I started this one, and now the world, some icky stuff is happening in the world that I don't even want to bring up on my channel because I don't want that energy here. But this series is about, like, our heroine in this first one. She's a reporter. She ends up getting a price on her head because of some information that she has. And so our hero is part of an Interpol group that will rescue people, or they do different missions, and he goes in to rescue her. And then he realizes if he hands her over to the US, she could be used as a bargaining chip with this bad group of people. And so he doesn't want to turn her in. And I enjoyed this. It had more to do with the plot than like a normal, than what I'm used to from Maggie Cole. So there were some parts where I was skimming a little bit in it. But I am very intrigued by this world. Like, I want to keep reading Maggie Cole. I've tried the first book in 2 of her series at this point. And I don't know which one I want to continue to binge, but I just like her writing. It's really easy to digest, to dive in, to fall into it. I don't think I'll love anything quite the way I love Mafia Wars, and part of that is just whenever an author, like as an author progresses, they get better. So it's like I'm reading her newest works and they're so powerful to me. So when you go back and you read something older from them, it doesn't always hit you the same way. And it doesn't mean that it's bad or anything. It just means it's not hitting the same way, right? Then I read Wild Hunger by Suzanne Wright. This was book 7 in the series. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was between, what kind of mix was this? Again, I'm horrible. I can't remember. But I gave this one 4 stars because, yeah, this one had Trick in it. And he was one who, he always wanted to find his mate. And he's very open to his mate. So he knew that when his wolf first saw his mate, that he would recognize her right away. But our mate, she's been through some pretty traumatic things. She actually saw her parents murdered. And so she's not as open, so he really has to kind of woo her. I gave this one 4 stars. I read Up for the Challenge by Riley Hart and Devon McCormick. Yes. And this was a viewer recommended book. This is a MM. This is a first time gay for you or bi for you situation. And I really liked it because it was very low angst. It was very low angst. It starts off with our hero. He goes to like a gay bar with his friends because one of his friends, that's where they want to go. And he ends up getting hit on. And he's like, oh no. And not in a bad way. He's just like, oh no, I gave this guy the wrong signals by saying I would buy him a drink. And so this person is like, let's get out of here. And he's like, I don't want to be rude because I gave him these signals, but I wasn't thinking it through. And so this other guy walks up and pretends to be his boyfriend to scare the other person away. So he's like, you're welcome, and then leaves. And then when our hero, I think, is it Nope, that's another one I'm reading. Can't remember his name, it's fine. He goes to leave and he gets mugged. And the same guy who his nickname ends up being Ninja, he saves him from being mugged. And so now he's like, now I owe you a dinner. And he's like, honey, no you don't. You just feel bad that the gay boy saved you. But he's like, but the gay boy had to learn how to protect himself, so I know how to do jujitsu. Because that's how the skinny gay boy protected himself at school. Which is clever. I like that. But they end up seeing each other, and our hero, who has always thought he's straight, realizes that he's very attracted to this man. And yeah, it's very low angst. My only complaint about it is that I feel like this one was like 50 to 100 pages too long. Like, this could have been like a 200-page book because there wasn't any angst. So then it was just like, it kept dragging on, and I was like, yeah, but it's working out. This one didn't need to be super long. So I gave this one 4 stars, but I really liked the recommendation, and I ended up finding Devon McCormick, who, because yeah, he co-wrote this with Hart, and he has a bunch of other male books, and so I'm going to read more of him. I love when I find male authors who write gay romance, and I like it. So I'm going to keep reading this author for sure. All right, then I read Enamoured by Giana Darling. This was my buddy read with Tori. Tori ended up kind of binging ahead of me, which was fine. I was in a weird, like I said, I was in a weird headspace. We had tried starting this like 2 or 3 times because we read the first one together at the beginning of the month, and it just wasn't working for me. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. This is a master-slave dynamic. This is also one of Giana's earlier works, and I can see the parts of her that I love now, but this just didn't vibe with me. Other part of it, I am an Elena and Dante stan. Like, I am a stan. And I just can't handle the way that Elena is treated by her siblings. And I know that if I read the Evolution of Sin trilogy, I would feel different. Actually, I probably wouldn't. I'm probably never going to finish that trilogy. But there was just some ways that Cosima talks about her that I'm like, no, I don't accept this. And also, yeah, this has some time jumps that I don't love. And I just didn't love our hero. And I know so many people just swoon for Alexander, but I don't like masters that are masters at this level. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it when it's like, even in our regular day that they're being a master, I don't enjoy 24/7 dynamics really in anything. And it just got to be too much. What I did love was Dante, because Dante is in this book quite a bit. He and Cosima call each other like brother and sister, and they have such a beautiful bond. And at the end of this one, we do get hints at both what happens with Elena and Dante and what will happen in, I can't remember his name, but their brother, so Cosima's twin brother. We get a hint about the polyamorous relationship that he will be in. I believe he's getting a duet or a trilogy, I'm not sure. But I know Giana will be putting that out next year. I believe it's next year. And I so want to read that one because we get a glimpse at that in this. So this ended up being a 4-star. I feel like I was generous just for my own enjoyment level. This is not bad writing. I feel like if you read this duet before you read, like, I feel like if you read her books in order for the Lombardi siblings, you would feel differently about this than me. But for me, I was just like, nope, I'm already a Dante and Elena stan, and so this doesn't work for me. Then I reread Filthy Rich. The audiobook for this just came out. I'm a little sad that Serena is redoing the covers of so many of her books because I own this whole series and now they're getting these covers. And honestly, for this book specifically, I like this cover better. Some of the other covers, I like them, but these are expensive paperbacks because hers are very high quality, so I can't afford to rebuy them all, and I'm sad about it. But anyway, this was one of my 6-star reads from this year. It stayed a 6-star. I loved it even more. The audiobook is Kai and Wen, Kai Kennicott and Wen Ross, which is a married couple, and I just love this. But this is about Anessa and Owen, and they have an arranged marriage. They've been engaged since she was 16. He is 38, I believe. Or no, he's 30. Because, yeah, it's a 12-year difference. And then when she's 18, they get married. But on her wedding day, she has been the shit kicked out of her by her dad because she was questioning this arranged marriage. And when Owen sees the way that his woman, because he immediately sees her as his woman, has been treated, he's like, who did it? Do you want to dance on their graves? Because I'll make it happen. And I'm sold. And I just love how their relationship grows. I love how patient and kind he is with her. This is a mafia man who's not afraid to Netflix and chill with his woman, and not even the chill part, sometimes just Netflix with her. And I love that. And yeah, I adore this book. This was a comfort reread for me. and I love it so much. Then I reread Disclaim by Pam Godwin. As I said, I was really in a rereading mood. This is book 3 in the Deliver series. This is about Camila and Matthias. This is a second chance romance for them. They knew each other as children. Her parents were murdered. He was forced to join the cartel. She was kidnapped by Vanquish and taken to be a sex slave. And now it is 12, 15 years later, I can't remember. And she is going to try to infiltrate a compound to rescue some sex slaves, and Matthias may or may not be quite entrenched with that cartel. Pam Godwin always makes it work, y'all. That's all I'll say. She always makes it work. I love her so much. Oh, that freaking light bugs me. Then I read Drag Me Up by R.M. Virtues. This was a viewer recommendation that I got from my form. This book was very interesting. This was a Hades and Persephone retelling. This is a Black love book. This is it has a trans woman as Persephone. It was kinky. It was great. Like, they were both kind of switches. There was some polyamorous scenes. I don't know. It was great. It was great. I gave this 4 stars though for one major reason, and that is the style of writing and the tense that was used. It was like a third person present tense, and it kept me from connecting with the characters. I've shared this recently with some of my friends, is third person present tense, and sometimes even third person in my contemporaries. It makes it hard for me to connect. I can read that in historicals all day long, but something about it when it's in contemporary, it just makes me feel distant from the characters. So I was enjoying a lot of the story, but then I didn't feel close with them when it was over. So this was pretty good. This takes place in kind of a alternate Vegas, which is called something else. And Hades owns the casino, which Persephone performs with kind of a Cirque du Soleil, but it's called something else. But she's an aerial performance in it. And yeah, it was good. I'm going to read the next one, which I believe is about Hephaestus and Aphrodite, I think. I do want to continue the series. I just worry that the tense will keep me from getting as sucked in as I want to be, but that's okay. It's okay. It happens. Then the last book that I finished was In Bed with the Devil by Lorraine Heath. This was the buddy read for my channel, which some of my friends have already read and other people didn't want to read with me. So something that I will be doing going forward, which I will talk about soon because I'm going to be filming my September recommendation, is I'm probably going to be picking the buddy reads from now on instead of like doing a spinner wheel. I'm going to pick a book that I'm already going to read, just because lately we haven't been doing the buddy reads, which is fine. I'm happy to read the book and give my thoughts, but I want to interact with you guys, so we might change that up. But anyway, this book is the first book in the, is this the Scoundrels of St. James, or I can't remember which series this one is, but this one was about the Devil Earl and Catherine Mabry. So his name was Luke, his name is Lucian, and this like series heavily feels like it's like Great Expectations or Oliver Twist, whichever one that is, because there's someone named Jack Dodger and there's someone we call the Old Gent, and there's like all this stuff that matches with it or whatever. But our heroine has a best friend, and her best friend's husband is very abusive, and she knows that Luke had went to prison for murder, and now he's not. He got out of it, and he is a duke now. And for some reason, she thinks it'd be a good idea to commission him to kill her friend's husband. And he agrees to do it on one condition, that she will teach his soon-to-be fiance, he hasn't proposed yet, but one of the girls he grew up with, to be a lady, so that she will feel comfortable marrying him and being his duchess. It's a complicated setup. It's Lorraine Heath. she can set up a story like that, and somehow not make you feel bad that he's kind of sort of with someone else. But it's an interesting thing because he's more friends with this woman and he wants to take care of her. So that's why he wants to marry her, not because he has wild, passionate, like childhood friends to lovers love for her. It's Lorraine Heath. If anyone else can have one of the characters in a relationship for most of the book and still make me root for this couple, it's her. But she does it. And I gave this 4.5 stars. And then one other book I will mention, because I have 30 minutes of the audiobook left, but I keep getting distracted. I'm reading the very last book in Suzanne Wright's series, and I'm sure it's going to be 4 stars. This one is way too long, in my opinion. This one is dragging on forever, but I really loved it. I loved binging this series in the last couple of weeks, and I definitely will read like the Mercury Pack spinoff and the other ones. So that first book, Feral Sins, was the first viewer recommendation that I read, and it has carried me through to this point. So thank you so much for watching this. Again, I don't know what next week's will look like. I know that it will go up later probably because I'm going to be traveling and I don't know when I'll be back. Well, I know when I'll be back, but I don't know if I'll feel like filming when I get back. But thank you so much for watching this. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week, and you can watch some more of them right now.